Kamal Saleem was born to a Muslim family in Lebanon. He became a member of the Muslim Brotherhood and of the Palestine Liberation Organization. However, God miraculously revealed himself to Kamal as the Lord Jesus Christ. Kamal is our special guest for today's edition of End of the Age. You won't want to miss his riveting testimony. Well, today we have a very special guest with us, and I want you to meet a wonderful friend of mine, Kamal Saleem. Kamal, wonderful to have you.
It's good to be with
here
you
at the End of the Age.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Well,
God bless you.
Thank you for coming. Now, for those of you that may not know, Kamal was born into a Muslim family, but I want him to tell you the story because I can't do it justice. This is a fascinating story of how God revealed himself to him. And today, he is a Christian on fire for the Lord. So I'll tell you what, let's do, Kamal, let's take some time to tell our audience about your childhood, your family. Just tell us how it all began.
Well, I was born in Beirut, Lebanon, to a Muslim Sunni family. We lived in the heart of Beirut, right there by the Mediterranean Sea. My dad was blacksmith. My mom was, her father came from Turkey. Her father was born in the city of Ur, and he ran for his life to, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire in 1924, to hide for his life in Lebanon. So therefore, what happened, my mother was the oldest of all children, and she was a teacher under him, so she learned so much from him. Therefore, she was my teacher as well. At home in Beirut, we have a little kitchen, we have a bedroom and living room. That was our entire house. 14 brothers and sisters lived in a small house and one bathroom.
So you had 14 brothers and sisters, plus you, plus your mom and dad?
No. That's total, all of us.
Okay,
yes.
So you're one, well, that's still plenty.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
You had your mother and dad and 14 of you children.
Yes.
And you lived in a kitchen,
bedroom and a living room.
And a living room.
And a bathroom.
So very close fellowship.
Well, this is where I learned terrorism. Being terrorized for the space that you have to live in. But the teaching that we had at our home, we have one session for the boys and one session for the girls. The boys are to be a ruler, to be the dominant, to be in charge. The girls were to be the feminist, the feminine one, and to be subservient, and also to cook, to clean, to have children. They were taught from their childhood how to be subservient. In Islam, the teaching for the women is the woman must be owned by a man, either by her father, by her uncle, by her brother, by her husband, by somebody, but she must be owned. She must have somebody tell her how to live her life as a man. So therefore what happened is the woman is, the Quran says, الرجال قوامون على النساء, meaning men are in charge. Men are, they own women in a way. So the women belong to the man. So she is not equal to him. The Quran teaches, and the Hadith and Sharia teaches that two women are equal to one man. So she is only half citizen as a man, the first as a citizen, with all this. So in my mother teaching on this little table, it was about 3 feet off the ground, and we sat on the ground and we learned over there. And we were reciting the Quran. We were trying to be, proficient in the Quran to understand it. But the Quran was written in a language it's hard to understand. It's a Quraysh Arabic. Quraysh Arabic, that's the tribe of Muhammad. So it was written in that Bedouin Arabic language, and you could not please Allah except in that language if you read the Quran. So the Quran was written in that perspective, and you could not change it.
So this teaching, was your mother actually your school teacher, or did you go to a separate school and this was your religious teaching?
That was my madrasa at home when I was a little boy. Madrasa means my school.
Okay.
So the teaching, we were reciting the Quran, we were learning the hadith. The hadith is traditions of Muhammad. And my mother told us also about the biography, of Muhammad, the seerah, how he lived his life. Because the Quran says the greatest model, to Islam is the Prophet. It never says his name, but it says he is the great, example. So we exemplarize ourselves in his image. And at young age, I used to climb up on the rooftop of the building after my family went to sleep. In Beirut, the nights are cold, they're treacherous, it comes from the Mediterranean Sea. It's icy evening, the water turned to ice. And I used to draw all my clothes off and just get naked, and I rolled in the icy water right there crying out. And I get on my knees and I put my hand to the heaven and say, Allah, Rabbi wa Mawlai, Allah, my Lord and my King, if lam takun li faman li. If you are not for me, who will be for me? I was wanting to have a relationship with him. I was wanting to hear his voice. And I cried out many times for him, but I never heard his voice.
So when you did this, was this sort of a type of penance to roll in icy water? I mean, that was suffering, wasn't it?
It was, but that's not the teaching of Islam. This is not, that was an orthodoxy of my own, because I was showing Allah that I'm willing to do anything for you, but tell me who you are. Let me know who you are. In the Quran, the teaching of Islam, Allah was not looking for a family. He's not looking for sons. He's not looking for daughters. He's not looking for somebody to be a kin of him. The Quran specifically specified that he is looking for slaves. So he is the slave master, and we are the slave. I really believe wholeheartedly that Islam is the slave master of the religion, and the Muslims are slave to Islam, and so therefore they are fulfilling what Islam telling them to do. Outside of Islam, they are different people, while under Islam they are totally, they change to that man that the Quran tells them to be. So my teaching, my mom, she said, I was very pure at heart. I believed everybody. I was very simple. My brothers were far ahead of me in many different ways. They're great hustlers. They were smart, and I had no clue. And my mom said to me, you are pure at heart, my son. One day you will kill and be killed for Allah, because you are willing to do what Allah said to you while your brothers were not.
So she's already teaching you that someday you will be killed for Allah.
Yes, because in Islam, the teaching is the only way to please Allah is through jihad. In Christianity, it says you could not please God without faith. In Islam, you could not please Allah without jihad. And the ultimate pinnacle of jihad is martyrdom. Martyrdom is the things that take the Muslim from being a normal human being to being somebody beyond, like a super being, like he's like a prophet, or like he is, somebody very special in God's eyes. Because Muhammad's teaching, the only way, when you kill and be killed for Allah, then paradise belongs to you. Firdaus. Firdaus is the paradise, is the seventh top layer of Islamic heaven, and that's where everything is permissible. What Allah told you, you will have. Everything that on earth is not doable, it is doable up there.
So would you say that almost all Muslim children are taught what you were taught?
A great amount of Muslim teaching. I believe at least 1/3 to a little bit about I would say 1/3 or a little bit over to close to 50% of Muslim children are taught this specifically today. Because the Muslim were looking for the day that the rise of Islam, when Islam become dominant. And where that come from? That comes from the Great Commission of Islam. The Great Commission of Islam, Muhammad says, Inni umirtu an uqatil al-shu'ub. Allah commanded him to war and kill the people of the world until everyone comes subjugated and to submission to Islam. He said, and if the Muslim do not, if the people do not subjugate themselves to you, then you have the right to kill them. And that's not the women or children, that's specifically the man. So why? Because when you kill the man, you'll inherit what he has. Because if the woman is subject to her husband and the children and the home, the finances, then that will become your subject. We saw that in Iraq and Syria when ISIS put on the houses the letter N, Noon, meaning now that's an Islamic property. Now everything inside of it belonged to the Islamic State. So what happened? Because Muhammad said it, and now, so he said, and if they do not concede to you, you have the right to their women, to their children, to their finances, to their land, to their home, to their country, to their government. Everything you have is your inheritance.
Kamal, you're giving us quite an education today. Many of us have not had close relations with Muslim people, so most of what they believe and practice, we don't really know a lot about. So this is so beneficial, and we got a lot to learn today. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to pause a moment for a break, and when we get back, I want you to tell us more about your childhood, I know you were sent off to a terrorist training camp.
Yes.
I want everybody to hear this because it is amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back in just a moment.
As Christians, we are called to witness the good news of Jesus Christ to all people. However, sometimes we struggle witnessing to Muslims. What do they believe? How can we reach them? Kamal Saleem was trained to know his enemy and to hate his enemy. He was taught that his main purpose was to change the world for Islam. After a severe accident, his life changed forever. In Unveiling the Ugly Truth, he explains the threat of Islamic extremism. In Unveiling the Beautiful Truth, he gives hope for Muslims' redemption. And in The Red Chair, Kamal tells his riveting story. These lessons will open your eyes to a greater understanding of Islam and will help you to know how to reach Islamic people. Order your Taking Christ to Islam set now for an exclusive price. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Get your copy today.
The End Time Prophecy Tour was the most wonderful tour. I would like to thank Irvin and Judy Baxter for a fabulous trip to Israel. I know it took much effort and planning to make it successful. What a tremendous time we all had, which warrants a great big thank you. You can't encapsulate it into words. You can't capture it with a photograph. You just have to experience Israel yourself. The Queen of Sheba said, "The half has not been told." I concur. What an awesome experience to visit the land of Bible history and see it come alive as you walk its paths. I shall be forever changed. Dale from Louisiana.
Join us October 25th through November 5th, 2018. You too can experience Israel with Irvin and Judy Baxter. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to sign up today.
Okay, so continue because we want to hear everything. We want to hear about your schooling, but then how did things develop? I know you eventually ended up in the Muslim Brotherhood. You ended up being associated with the PLO.
Yes.
So you just tell us because we want to hear the whole story.
Yes, so it was the teaching, the milk of my mother that I nursed on that really prompted me to go to do what I was about to do. The teaching of my mother said, if you kill a Jew, my son, if you kill a Christian, your hand will light up before the throne of Allah, and the host of heaven will celebrate your victory, what you killed.
So your mother was teaching you should kill.
Yes, it is our rights because, our right to cleanse the Jews out and And if the Christians do not convert, then we have to kill them.
Wow, that's
You know,
astounding.
the teaching of the Quran, it says that before you kill the people of the book, meaning the Jews and the Christian, you have to ask them to convert. You know, and if they don't convert, then you have the right to kill them. But in other process, when you're at war, then you have the right to kill without even asking them to convert. So the teaching of my mother, one day she said, my son, there is this thief. That's Muhammad told that story. And that thief, you know, one day he said to himself, why am I doing all this? I'll go and join the army of Muhammad. And he joined the army of Muhammad, and he was killed. And, you know, and he was, this man was a murderer, liar, you know, everything, you know, that man supposed not to do. And one day she had a dream. In a dream, he was sitting in paradise before the throne, and he has virgins, you know, virgin women, you know, with dark eyes, beautiful women, you know, all together. And he was eating and, you know, right by the water, you know, by rivers. And she said to him, how dare you sitting here? This is not your place. He said, when I died in martyrism, Allah forgave me all my sins, and I had the right to, you know, to go to paradise. So the teaching was, you know, it doesn't matter where you come from, but you know where you're going to go to if you die for the sake of Allah one day, no matter what your background is. And that's the only guarantee in Islam that you can go to paradise, because Islam in the Quran says, وَكُلُّ مِنْكُمْ وَارِدُهَا. All Muslims will have to go to hell first. So when we look at all this, my mom taught me right there from the teaching, you know, and one day she, you know, she was teaching from the Quran. She was teaching about all have to go to hell, you know, and some will fall, you know, whatever that is, and to have purified for so many years. But she said there is one place in the Quran where Allah said, you know, there's an exemption over there. And it's in the surah, meaning in the book. It says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءً عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Those who died for the sake of Allah in martyrdom, that they are alive and prospering before the throne of Allah. So that's a guarantee, you know, to the Muslim to die in martyrdom. So I started dreaming about killing Jews and Christians. At the young age, I used to write on the street of Beirut, غَيْرُ مَرْغُوبِ بِكُمْ, you know, on a wall of the Christians. You know, you are not accepted, because the Jews run for their life, and we took over their properties all over Lebanon, you know, in a great exchange. And so they went to Israel, and what happened, we took over everything they owned. And now what happened is the Christians are the enemies that left over there. And I used to write on the walls of Beirut, the people of Saturday first and the people of Sunday next. Meaning we're going to kill the people, the Jew first, and we're going to come after the people of the Christian next.
So the Jews that keep the Sabbath on Saturday.
Yes.
And then a lot of Christians go to church on Sunday.
That's right.
The slogan is, we'll kill the Saturday people first and the Sunday people after that.
That's right. That's the teaching that I was learning. And now my life was going, you know, different, you know, and my dad took me out of school at a young age because I was not smart. And to the point he said, I wish you were a girl. I'd have gotten rid of you by now. Because in Islam, if you are a 6 years old girl, you can gift that girl in marriage to 60 years old man or younger or older, whatever, because it's permissible in Islam. If Muhammad did it, then it's doable for all Muslims to marry a young girl. But I was a boy.
So this is mind-boggling. You're telling me that many, many Muslims would take their little girls, 6, 7, 8 years of age, and put them out for marriage.
Well, there's a lot of trade in Islam. A woman is a tool. It could be traded. It could be bought. It could be sold. You know, as a matter of fact, Islamic slavery still take place in Middle East, specifically in oil country, like Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman. That's where you can buy little boys, you can buy little girls, you know, specifically those that they are kidnapped from the United States. They like blonde boys, blonde girls, so they purchase them over there. This is still taking place, and it's in the Bible, you know.
Yeah, and of course, Muhammad, he married a girl at the age of 6.
Yes, he did.
And I look at that and say, oh my goodness, how in the world does someone like this end up being a prophet to 1.7 billion people on the earth, but yet so many people believe in that.
Muhammad teaching and Muhammad, the way his life went, differs from the Bible, although they said they are the people of the book. And the difference between the two, everything was given to him in one setting, open, closed sentences. Nobody know the reason why. Some they do and some they don't. But he did what he did, whatever that may be. And Allah came to say, okay, I'm allowing him to do this because, I am the kind of God, this and that and the other. So I have allowed him to do this. For example, his son, he had an adopted son. His son has a wife, and one day Muhammad begot her. He went inside the house, and the teaching said he took her, and so therefore he said, "This is my wife."
So Muhammad took his son's wife.
That's right.
Is this commonly known?
The story is very well known, but so therefore Allah came in the Quran. He said, adoption in Islam is illegal. It's not legal with Allah. So therefore, he forgave Muhammad. He said this was never his son, although Muhammad adopted him, and what so have you. That's until he did what he did. Now adoption. So Islam believe in the fallen spirit, which is the anti-spirit of adoption, that is spirit of orphan. It's an orphan spirit that has no value because it's not grafted to any promises.
The more you tell me, the more my head is spinning here, Kamal. So I want to hear the rest of your story as far as, okay.
Yes.
So what happened next?
So my dad took me out of school, and now, one day I go to the mosque, and I was recruited by a group of, they called the Muslim Brotherhood. These imams came and protected me because I was hurt by the Armenian Christians, and by the Shia and by the Kurds. They were whipping on me, stealing my stuff, and one day the Muslim Brotherhood came to my rescue in the mosque.
So how old were you at this time?
I was 7 years old.
So at 7 years of age, you were protected by the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes, I have immunity, and these people paid the visit to the people that they were tormented me. And they told them, if you, and it was not a visit, it was really a bloody visit. That they were beating, they were, I put it in my book, The Blood of Lambs. And the reason that is because, these people were tormenting me, and now they've been tormented by the Muslim Brotherhood. So now I have a citizen to the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood came in 1928 after the fall of the Ottoman Empire in 1924. And their organization is based on to re-establish the caliphate and establish Islamic Ummah, which is one world order under Allah, and to re-establish the Sharia to be the law of all nations. That's why they're trying to establish Sharia in the United States, in Europe, everywhere, because if you don't allow our laws to be practiced in your nation, then what happened to your nation is because your fault. So therefore, you are being served. And so that's why the trouble comes when the Muslims are not heard. And so therefore they forewarn in trouble.
So what you're telling me is that Islam is not just a religion. It is also a system of statehood and laws. So you can't separate, here in America, we see the difference between church and state. But you're telling me that in the Muslim world, it's all one and the same.
Only 14% of Islam is a religion. The rest of Islamic religion, it's a political system, military system, civic system, judicial system, financial system. It has all the laws and the bylaws for a government. And all of it is under what's so-called Sharia. What is Sharia? Sharia is the constitution to Islam. It constitutes to them everything, how to live, how to eat, how to sleep, how to kill, why, and everything, every other things. It's a supreme law. So that's why in Islam, it's very important to understand why they could not assimilate in America. Why they could not assimilate in Europe? Because if their laws, is their constitution, Sharia, is higher, and it is Allah law, so it could not mix and merge to be with man's law. It has to be Allah laws, and that's the highest law there is. So therefore, what happened, Islam progressively goes, as Islam increase, they start trying to dominate and take dominion and power and authority and rule. They just start taking over, a start area. They build a mosque, they congregate around the mosque, they build a school, Islamic school, madrasa, and then they congregate around that, and then they build Islamic center, which is, it is a Supreme Court, Sharia court.
So what you're telling me is all these mosques we see here in America, if these people are truly practicing Islam, they don't believe they can assimilate. They believe they must end up dominating and conquering.
Yes.
Well, listen, Kamal, we've reached the end of this segment, but we've got a lot of territory to cover.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. I know everyone's enjoying it as much as I am. So we're going to pause right now, but in our next segment, we're going to learn a whole lot more.
As Christians, we are called to witness the good news of Jesus Christ to all people. However, sometimes we struggle witnessing to Muslims. What do they believe? How can we reach them? Kamal Saleem was trained to know his enemy and to hate his enemy. He was taught that his main purpose was to change the world for Islam. After a severe accident, his life changed forever. In Unveiling the Ugly Truth, he explains the threat of Islamic extremism. In Unveiling the Beautiful Truth, he gives hope for Muslims' redemption. And in The Red Chair, Kamal tells his riveting story. These lessons will open your eyes to a greater understanding of Islam and will help you to know how to reach Islamic people. Order your Taking Christ to Islam set now for an exclusive price. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Get your copy today.
Have you always wanted to know more about Bible prophecy? Well, now you can. Attend a prophecy conference hosted by End of the Ages Irvin Baxter or Dave Robbins. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Irvin or Dave will be at a location near you.